The white building with black shutters that you see in front of you is affectionately known as the Irish Meetinghouse. This name honors the ancestors of the Scots-Irish immigrants who settled in this region in the early 1700s. The structure bears a date stone which reads, "Rebuilt 1841." This is the third place of worship to be erected on this property. The settlers followed the Presbyterian teachings of John Knox and likely worshipped initially in their homes. Around 1725, a log structure was built at the east end of the cemetery near the present-day location of the Red Schoolhouse. We have no other details about this structure. The Presbyterian Church of Deep Run was admitted into the Philadelphia Presbytery in 1732. The log church was used for worship until the 1770s. In 1770 and 1771, a lottery, a custom of the time, was used to raise funds to construct a larger stone church. It was built on the same site as the structure you see today. That first stone church is said to have faced south with doors on each end. It contained a raised walnut pulpit and sounding board on the north wall. Additional seating was added in a gallery on three sides of the church in 1776. The gallery was accessed by an outside stairway. John Dunlap, James Darrah, and William Darrah were members of this church and fought in the French and Indian War. For unknown reasons, this original stone church building fell into disrepair within 70 years. The Reverend Silas Andrews served both the Deep Run and the Doylestown Presbyterian congregations beginning in 1831 and may have been instrumental in the dismantling of the 1700 stone church and the construction of a larger stone church that you see today. Some accounts said there was a wood stove at the rear of the church for heating. Lighting was done by oil lamps. The Irish Meetinghouse has been used for worship services every year since 1841. Attendance rose and attendance fell. In lean years, services were held only a few times each year. In late 1957, the Deep Run and Doylestown congregations separated, and the Irish Meetinghouse was refurbished in order to begin holding regular services. This included adding central heat and electricity. By the late 1970s, two services were filled to capacity every Sunday, meaning that the congregation had outgrown the Irish Meetinghouse, and plans to build a larger sanctuary began. In 1991, the Irish Meetinghouse was carefully restored to assure safety and maintain historic value. In 2025, the Presbyterian Church of Deep Run will celebrate 300 years of Presbyterian worship at this site. To put this time frame into perspective, recall that William Penn began the colony of Pennsylvania just 44 years earlier in 1681. Worship started on this campus around 1725, 7 years before George Washington was born. The American Revolutionary War began in 1775. Church member Henry Darrah was a captain in the Revolution, and Thomas and Samuel Armstrong, along with other church members, also served. Pennsylvania became a state, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, 62 years after the beginning of Presbyterian worship at Deep Run. Today, the Irish Meetinghouse remains an integral part of the religious life and worship on the Deep Run campus. We worship in the Irish Meetinghouse several times throughout the year. Please join us at these or any of our worship services, which are welcoming to everyone. The cemetery on the campus of the Presbyterian Church of Deep Run is sacred and historic ground. It contains over 260 graves of church members. Some date back to the 1700s. Some are local historical figures. A look across the cemetery shows many military markers and flags. There are 67 graves of those who served in our armed forces. Cemetery records as of August 2024 show military graves as follows: 3 from the French and Indian War, 31 from the Revolutionary War, 1 in the Civil War, 1 in World War I, 15 in World War II, 8 in Korea, and 11 in Vietnam. 3 of these heroes served in 2 wars. Major William Kennedy, 1743 to 1783, is recognized as a DAR Patriot for his service with the Bucks County Militia. He was laid to rest at Deep Run after succumbing to injuries suffered while apprehending one of the notorious group of brothers and thieves known as the Doane Gang. These brothers were British spies and loyalists. The grave of Henry Bradford Darrah, a.k.a. Derrick, 1725 to 1782, is easily found by a new marker on his grave, which is near his original marker and those of his other family members. According to Find a Grave, Darrah was a Revolutionary War captain in the Jersey Campaign of 1776, led by George Washington. The grave of the Reverend James Greer holds special meaning for members of the Presbyterian Church of Deep Run. According to church history, Reverend Greer studied theology under Dr. John Witherspoon, the only clergy to sign the Declaration of Independence. A book written by Horace M. Mann in 1950 states that Reverend Greer was the pastor of the oldest stone church at Deep Run from 1776 to 1791. He died a year later. When the new sanctuary was built at Deep Run, 2 centuries later in 1980, James Greer, a relative of the historic minister, donated the funds to purchase the new pulpit. Among the oldest grave markers is that of Alice Armstrong. She was the young daughter of Revolutionary War veteran Thomas Armstrong and his wife Sarah. Alice was buried here in, depending on the source, either 1747 or 1767. Many of the oldest graves in the cemetery are marked only by random field stones, which were placed at the graves so loved ones could find their location in the future. The cemetery was inactive and fell into disrepair at times throughout its history. In 1965, the cemetery was cleaned of all fallen debris and headstones were reset. Permission was granted to beloved and influential minister, the Reverend Dr. Paul Calvin Payne, and his wife, to be buried at Deep Run when their times came. By 2000, the cemetery was reaching capacity. The memorial garden, including a columbarium, was built in 2003 along the north edge of the campus. It is a beautiful place for reflection and contains resting niches for church members and their immediate family members. There are more examples of local figures buried here. You're welcome to review the church website, which contains more details and links regarding the cemetery and the fascinating history of the Presbyterian Church of Deep Run. You can find it at www.pcdeeprun.org. The red brick schoolhouse you see today is the second school building erected on this spot. The first was built in 1866. It was one of 6 one-room schools that Bedminster Township erected in the late 19th century to comply with a state mandate. In 1898, the Bedminster School Board replaced the original structure with the present red brick schoolhouse on this land belonging to the Presbyterian Church of Deep Run. It was called the Modern Presbyterian School. The ground rental agreement stated that the school board would pay the church $2 per year for the rent of the land. Current church members recall a deceased member, Sam Brubaker, who attended the Modern Presbyterian School briefly as a child. The school board used this building for public school education until 1956, when classes were moved to newer facilities. In 1958, the Bedminster School Board put all one-room schoolhouses up for auction. The Presbyterian Church of Deep Run was happy to purchase the building and its school bell. The $2,000 cost required the church to take a loan in order to complete that purchase. The timing was excellent because Christian education classes were being held outside on the grounds when weather permitted or in people's homes. When it was purchased, the Red Schoolhouse, as it's affectionately known, had electricity and heat. Indoor bathroom facilities were quickly installed and the basement and main floor were readied for the many purposes the church envisaged for this building. It was used for Sunday school classes, the church office, choir rehearsals, meetings, and housed the first church library. 1 year later, it was also used for the Deep Run Nursery School, which received its certificate of accreditation with the help of Nobel Prize-winning author Pearl S. Buck. The Red School also served as the base camp for the church's first vacation Bible camp in 1960. The building, which underwent a major facelift in the late 1990s, retains the character of the historic one-room schoolhouse both inside and out. It is an integral part of the Deep Run story, past and present. The Red Schoolhouse welcomes groups from within the church and the local community and has provided space for educational pursuits on the campus of the Presbyterian Church of Deep Run for more than 125 years. The structure, affectionately known as the Payne, P-A-Y-N-E, building, can be seen today as a section of the large black and white cross-shaped building. The Payne Building is the section that extends toward the Red Schoolhouse. Additions have been connected to it over the decades. In 1960, the campus of the Presbyterian Church of Deep Run consisted of the two historical buildings, the Irish Meetinghouse and the Red Schoolhouse, and a third building, the Manse, which remains located at the east end of the current campus. The needs of the congregation had outgrown these spaces, so in 1961 conversations began about a new structure that would serve as a Christian education building. Since the congregation was already in debt due to the construction of the manse, substantial funds would be needed in order to pay off that debt and then to finance the new construction. Unfortunately, in 1962, the church's newly hired minister, the Reverend Harry Romerell, was stricken ill and died. The congregation was deeply saddened, and plans for a new construction came to a stop. Interim pastor, the Reverend Dr. Paul Payne, helped the congregation through its grief and then led them in their plans for the future. Between 1963 and 1965, adequate funds were raised. The groundbreaking for the new construction took place on May 2, 1965. The shovel used for this groundbreaking still remains on display at the church. The new Christian Ed building was dedicated on April 24, 1966. The congregation voted 2 years later to name the building the Paul Calvin Payne Building. In 2024, Dr. Payne is remembered as a beloved preacher and friend. He and his wife are buried in the church cemetery. So great was his impact upon the congregation that it was entirely fitting for the building to be named after Dr. Payne. The exterior of the structure is designed to mirror the simplicity of the Irish Meetinghouse. The new structure contained classrooms, 4 bathrooms, a nursery, a library, and a kitchen. Up to this time, the only running water on the campus was in the very cramped quarters of the Red Schoolhouse. A new kitchen meant it was easier for the flower arranger, for the communion setup, and for washing up. The classrooms had movable partitions, which provided much-needed versatility. The kitchen and the larger gathering space allowed for all congregation potluck meals. That was the first time that Deep Run had had enough space for all participants to sit down together at tables. It was something congregants wanted, but had never been able to do before. For the next 14 years, the Payne Building, the Irish Meetinghouse, and the Red Schoolhouse provided space for worship, Christian education, outreach, and gatherings large and small. In 1980, the newly constructed sanctuary was connected to the Payne Building, and in 2002, another addition was built, which was also connected to the Payne Building. In 2024, the Payne Building houses the Deep Run Nursery School. The connection of the Payne Building, the sanctuary, and the 2002 addition form the large black and white cross-shaped building you see today at the center of the campus of the Presbyterian Church of Deep Run. The sanctuary you see today was built in 1980. The main entrance faces Route 113, which is unique for this campus of the Presbyterian Church of Deep Run. The entrances to the Irish Meetinghouse, the Red Schoolhouse, and the Payne Building all face Irish Meetinghouse Road. By the late 1970s, membership at the church was well over 300. The Irish Meetinghouse was simply too small for worship, even though 2 services were being held every Sunday. The Red Schoolhouse and the Payne Building, where Christian education and other church activities took place, were just being outgrown. In 1978, the congregation decided to build a new 2-story structure containing a sanctuary, larger kitchen, and new church offices. Groundbreaking took place May 6, 1978, using that very same shovel featured in the groundbreaking of the Payne Building 13 years earlier. The congregation has always placed great importance on honoring its Scotch-Irish heritage. Therefore, the design of the new building reflects the simplicity of the Irish Meetinghouse, which is still located at the west end of the property. When seen from the air, the sanctuary building, the Payne Building, and a subsequent addition combined to form a cross. It was with some sadness and also joyful anticipation that on June 29, 1980, the congregation ended weekly worship at the Irish Meetinghouse to begin worship in the new space. Prayers had been answered when sufficient donations and memorial funds arrived to furnish the sanctuary. A special thread of history is woven into the new sanctuary because Reverend James Greer donated the funds to purchase the new pulpit. His ancestor, also Reverend James Greer, was the pastor at Deep Run from 1776 to 1791. The sanctuary today remains much like it was in 1980. The interior honors its heritage with simple pews and lighting. While there is a cross behind the pulpit today, initially the sanctuary did not have a cross because the Irish Meetinghouse did not have a cross. The organ moved from the Irish Meetinghouse was replaced in 1988, and then again in 2017 when a Rogers Artist 579 organ was installed. Original watercolors hang on the sidewalls, painted in 2017 by a church member during a series of sermons designed to help the congregation assess its voyage and mission. The church has experienced many changes since the sanctuary was constructed in 1980. Ministers have come and gone, attendance has fluctuated, and yet 44 years later, this sanctuary remains the center of holy worship for all occasions. It is a safe and sacred space for everyone who enters, and where all are welcome. Over the years, the Presbyterian Church of Deep Run has outgrown the Irish Meetinghouse and the Red Schoolhouse. The congregation built the Payne Building for Christian education in 1965, and then the new sanctuary building in 1980. But by the middle of the 1990s, the church was again out of space, reaching a membership of 400. Sunday school classes and meeting rooms were overflowing, but with the congregation's support, another building project. According to author and church historian Joanna McCormick in her book, Recent History of the Presbyterian Church of Deep Run, 1956 to 2006, a building committee was formed in 1994. For 6 years, all church committees and members were surveyed to determine what type of expansion the congregation felt was needed. In January of 2000, authorization was given to proceed with the project, and a ceremonial groundbreaking took place on Christmas Eve. McCormick remembers an endowment from the Hoops family served as the basis for the new addition. The new space would be attached to the Payne Building and the new sanctuary building and includes 7 new classrooms, larger church offices, a kitchen, a library, a fellowship hall, and an elevator. Before construction could begin, the contents of the affected areas of the Payne Building and the sanctuary building were placed into storage, mainly in the Red Schoolhouse. According to McCormick, the addition was completed before Easter of 2002. The contents then were removed from storage and placed into their new locations. Dedication of the new addition took place in May 2002. The congregation was overjoyed to finally have adequate space for all church activities. The fellowship hall, named Hoops Hall, became the gathering place for many church and outreach events. The dedication plaque in the hall states, "We dedicate this room in memory of Howard and Louise Hoops and their sons, Doug and Dan. They were faithful members who served Christ's church with love." In 2024, this expansion remains in constant use for church activities, community groups, fellowship, outreach, and religious education, like the rest of the campus of the Presbyterian Church of Deep Run. Many of the buildings and activities that take place at the campus of the Presbyterian Church of Deep Run have long and rich histories. The Nursery School is no exception. The Deep Run Daily Nursery School was established in 1959 with 1 teacher and 6 children. They met in the Red Schoolhouse using donated equipment. The school operated for 2.5 hours each weekday from September to June. A book about the Presbyterian Church of Deep Run, written by Dorothy Cameron, states that Pearl S. Buck, who served in 1959 on the Governor's Committee on Education, was instrumental in procuring accreditation for the nursery school. There is speculation that some of Buck's children may have attended this school, since at that time, Pearl Buck had a home outside of Dublin. The school has continued to grow over the last 65 years. When it outgrew the Red Schoolhouse, the nursery school was moved to 2 classrooms in the Payne Building. In 2024, the Deep Run Presbyterian Nursery School occupies much of the Payne Building with 4 classrooms, an office, and storage space, and operates from 9 o'clock in the morning until 2:45 in the afternoon, Monday through Friday, September through May. It also offers summer camp-type programs in each of the 3 summer months. The maximum enrollment for 2024, 122 children ages 1 through 4. They're in various programs. Sessions are conducted by 4 teachers, 3 teaching assistants, a music teacher, and a yoga instructor. Visit the church during nursery school hours and you will be treated to joyful children, parents, and staff, participating in many activities from classroom to music and even yoga. Or outside, you can find all enjoying the playground. The nursery school is one of the many ways the congregation of the Presbyterian Church of Deep Run lives its important mission of outreach to the local community.